company. And if you see the history, there are a number of products which I believe that most of our people and friends are familiar with. One of the example is nylon, which was basically invented by DuPont. Another product which is very popular here, and most of our, the household ladies must be familiar about that, is Teflon. So basically it is being used for our frying pans, for instance. And another product which is we call Kevlar, which is we are using it for bulletproof jackets, and main of our customers are police and Pakistan Army. So basically we have a very diversified sort of a business in DuPont. If you go into the next slide, basically we are in more than 90 countries globally, and around 61,000 people around the globe. But the major thing which I would like to stress here is our investment. You see our 2010 spending on research and development is around $1.7 billion, which we basically working on our the research and development side. And if we see our total turnover with this group is $31.5 billion. I'll explain in the later slide about the split of, and we are part of Europe, Middle East and Africa, where other than Pakistan there are other 39 countries also. So here we are with the 87 different national languages, 33 different languages, and 14 countries, and around 15. Basically, this is the split. You can see here that this is $31.5 billion company. And you can see DuPont is presently working in most of the growing segments. Like if the first segment, which is we call it DuPont Ag and Nutrition, where the crop protection and seeds are there, and is close to. Okay, so now my 5 minutes starts now, so I have only 5 minutes left. So, okay, if you go into the next slide, I just draw your attention about, one of the key mega trends, and which is one of our core, strategy also.
If you look at the unit-wise, we are almost equivalent to the multinational companies, whereas the multinational companies have a very high price products. Next. So the good sign is that Pakistan pharma industry meets about 90% of the medicines which are required locally. So we have to only import about 10% of the products which are basically vaccines and immunization programs. When I say about 90%, I mean that whatever the requirement of the country is, there is still room for accessibility improvement in Pakistan, where I think about 20 to 30% of people still don't have the access to our the pharmaceuticals. But the local industry is working towards it, and hopefully there will be a time when we will have 100% access all over Pakistan. Next. The local industry over the last 15 years have invested billions of rupees to introduce and acquire new technologies and produce affordable medicines locally. If you look at the regional pricing, sir, there was a resolution passed by Philippine Parliament in 2010 February, and they declared that Pakistan pharmaceutical products are the most economical, and we should import the pharmaceuticals from Pakistan. And the India didn't come into that picture, so we are producing cost-effective and quality medicines in Pakistan. Next. As I said earlier, that we have the highly educated manpower, and we almost employ more than 4 million people directly and indirectly in the pharmaceutical industry. Next. If you talk about exports, Alhamdulillah, the industry have performed very well. The pharmaceutical export, mainly by the national companies, is the 7th largest category and is growing at double the rate of the total exports of Pakistan, as per the TDAP. So these are the countries, few countries that where we export: Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Malaysia, the African markets and even the CIS countries. So more than 60 countries where our national companies export the pharmaceutical sign. And if you see the inflation, even if you take the state bank inflation rate, the industry have not been granted the price increase. And this irrational pricing policy is actually diverting funds from the research and development and upgradation just to sustain our existing operations. And we request through our honorable speaker that there should be the government should actually invite the industry and have a rational pricing policy where the industry can also survive and continuously produce cost-effective medicine. As I said, the 90% of the pharmaceuticals are produced locally, and if you reverse that trend, then you can imagine how much foreign exchange we will be investing in importing our medicines. This is the survival of from the government, poor vigilance of the pharmaceutical regulatory authorities. We feel that the strength of the regulators is not enough to control the spurious and the counterfeit drugs. Lack of enforcement of existing legislation, which is quite cumbersome, and going forward is weak penal sanctions which actually penalize the people who do this. And as far as the industry is concerned, we feel at quite a disadvantage, because this is a criminal activity which somebody is doing, and the criminals are not taken to the task. Also contributing factors: excessive product demand, inefficient relationships between the regulatory agencies, between the industry, the law enforcement, the customs, and the Ministry of Health. Next. What are the counterfeit types? There are many types which I will go into the detail one by one. Next. Trademark abuse, store. But unfortunately our consumers don't take the matters in their own hand. And when the chemist tries to substitute the product, give him a cheaper price product, our consumer doesn't demand that I need the product which has been prescribed to me. So I think it's very important that consumer, the society, the association, the industry and the government have to together play an important role. But the consumer, and I have been a great supporter of this Hamid Maker's stand, that the consumer need to come into front, and I need to protect my right as a consumer, that I need a quality product at a good price. And until and unless I don't take the matter in my own hand, this counterfeit, this spurious medicines will keep flourishing, and we will not be able to fight it. Thank you very much, sir.
Once again, Farah, with your permission, madam, with our friend Javed Saab, Iqbal Hamari Jafri Saab, have developed this anti-count. I have requested Harun Qasim to have a look at it. People have had a meeting with the PPMA people and their manufacturers. These are anti-counterfeit labels will help to identify a fake product from a genuine product. We are hoping that through the PPMA platform, we want to make it compulsory on life-saving drugs. Now the cost factor is of course there, जिसमें ₹1 या ₹2 का फर्क पड़ सकता है, but at the expense of your child's health. I think I as a consumer would at least be prepared to make that sacrifice of ₹1 or so. But at the same time, like Harun Sahab has told you, warned us, do not buy from a panwala a medicine. That's where we go wrong. And demand what's name? Look, your medicines are protected by an undertaking. The manufacturer gives you that undertaking. So when you buy a medicine, demand a bill and buy from a reputed store. But again, I would request Harun Sahab to please promote the anti-counterfeit labels that we have introduced. I've had my bit.
The consumer first and corporate social responsibility, to the two together. So I sort of began to think about it, and I said, putting the consumer first, I'm sure the audience that's going to be there, everybody is going to say, yes, let's put the consumer first. So what am I going to say? So clearly I'm not going to spend any time here trying to say consumer must come first, because I think there'll be no value addition. We all want that. So then the question immediately is, but how do we make the consumer first? Where are we slipping? What are the issues? And what are some options? And if, let's say, we start from the market. Typically you go to a marketplace.
you can have, in theory, two kinds of options. And I'll give you the extremes, which I'm sure you're familiar with also in a way. One would be what I'd call a free market enterprise. The market decides what price, how, where, when they wish to give it, and sort of no regulation, totally free. And the other extreme can be where you have a very regulated market. So everything is almost predetermined or decided. So you have these two extremes. And I think if you look at economic history and look at countries, people have experimented with both the regimes in some form or fashion. There are distinct advantages for each, and there are distinct disadvantages for each of these two extremes. So then the question really is that, okay, so that's something we can talk about, exchange views on. What do we choose? Where do we draw the line? Where do we go between these two extremes? So each society, each country must evolve its own median point, depending on the state of development, the issues, the psyche, and so many other factors that go in there. So it is somewhere between the two. Now, I have been a corporate person. For 40 years, I've served corporations. Though I'm retired now, I still serve on some boards, so I stay a little bit engaged. So I'm speaking honestly more as a concerned citizen here than a former CEO or somebody like that. What is that right balance where we ought to be? And there are 3 or 4 areas in which I'm very clear in my mind there can be and should be no compromise.